This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're gonna be building a city, skyscrapers, offices, monuments. We're gonna be going over and making parks in the middle, some shops all over the place. Today we're looking at the Days of Wonder's release of the year, Quadropolis. It's 2 to 4 players, plays between 30 and 60 minutes. Let me show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. In Quadropolis, you will be building your city over 4 rounds. At the beginning of the game, you get to pick your color, and all of them look a little different. They have different guys, and you'll get 4 different construction workers with different numbers of your color on them, and you'll also get a player aid. Now at the beginning of each round, tiles specific for that round number will be put in this bag, shuffled up, and then put on this board. Now, these tiles will differ depending on the round and the number of players. For example, at first they put face down, and this is only for 3 or 4 players. If you have 3 or 4 players, it's face up. If not, it's face down. So the game will scale, and there'll only be certain tiles available for you or flipped up, depending on the amount of players. But with 4 players like we're doing today, they're all face up. But with less players, some of them will be placed face down. This is the mayor. It's the green token. It gets randomly given to the first player of the game, and this will change hands as I show you. Now, how the game works is you'll be taking some of these tiles and placing them in your city. Each round, every player is going to get 4 turns. So, how the game works is essentially you will take one of your construction workers and place it somewhere on the grid. Now, I cannot place it on top if there's already another player here. I can't place it on top. I have to find an open spot. And if it's open, I can place it right now in any row or column. Now this number here tells me where I get it. So if I put it 2, I'm going to grab this second tile in this row. I'm going to take this and put it in my city. But I could very easily have done this and taken this one. Or maybe I really want this one. I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Or maybe I really just want this one here. I'll take 1. Or maybe this one I take 1. As you can see, the number you place is the number you count in and you take. Let's say I placed 1. I'll take this and put it in my city. Now, if you remember, I used number 1 to get this factory, which means I have to place it in either any of these in column 1 or any of these in row 1. So you'll see that this is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. So I can place it anywhere from here, and here, or here. I have a lot of options here. Put it here, and maybe I just place it there. Now, some tiles get you some certain things. For example, anything on the top left is what you get. So essentially, this factory got me 3 energy, and at the end of the game, for this to score, I have to activate it with an inhibitant. It looks like a meeple. They're translucent. They're very nice looking. At the end of the game, I need to have a meeple or an inhabitant here to activate and be able to score this building. But right now I have 3 energy. So let's say later on I got this tile. Maybe this thing went over here. This one also needs that, and I need some energy there. Or maybe even this one. Maybe I put this one here. This one would get me 2 inhabitants, and I need 1 energy to activate this. Now the items that you get, you can place them at any time, you can move them around any time. It's just at the end of the game, you need to be able to have these things activated. So right now, if this was the end of the game, these 2 things would be activated. I'd have some left over, we'll talk about that later. But these can move around throughout the whole game. You're just trying to, I like to put them on them when I grab the tile so I know which things I have too much of and which things I don't have enough of. Now, very important is when you place this and you take a tile, you must move this urbanist there. Now, what this means, on the next player's turn, they cannot place one of their construction workers in the same, pointing at the same row or pointing at the same column. So they couldn't go here, they couldn't go here, and they could not go here because the urbanist is there. So let's say they end up putting a 4 here, and they take 1, 2, 3, 4. They take this one and place it. As soon as they take it, they move the urbanist. So now the next player cannot go here, here, up here, and obviously they can't go here. So this stops you and kind of messes with where people can go. And that's the mechanisms of the game, is everybody's going to get 4 turns. We go clockwise. And at the end of the round, you will have placed 4 cities at the end of the first round. You would then clear this board off, and you would use the round 2 tiles and do the same thing all over, and you do this for 4 rounds. Also notice each round there is one that has the mayor on it. If someone puts the 1, grabs this tile, they take the mayor, and they're going to be first player next round. They immediately take it from whoever has it. Everything still goes clockwise for this round, but they'll be the first player for next round. Now I want to show you the insert. This thing is amazing. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has them listed here. And there's certain classic tiles will go here. There's some expert tiles we'll talk about that go there. We'll talk about that later. And I have all the ones, and I would basically put these back, the ones that weren't used. And then I would just take all of the number 2s plus the classic tiles, throw them in the bag for the second round. This really allows you to get the game going with as many components as there are. This makes it really easy to keep the game moving. Now, my city might look like this at the end of the game. I've gotten 16 squares, and you'll say, well, why isn't this full if it's 16 squares? Well, one thing I didn't mention to you is that these yellow residential buildings can stack. And a cool thing about them is right now I have 1, 2, 3, I have 4 high. And so how this works is when I grab something, usually you have to put it in that row or column number 4. But if it's one of these buildings, I can place it anywhere if it's the 4th level. And very much so, whatever number level it is, this is the fourth level, I could have used this to put it on there anywhere on the board, which is a cool thing. So that's why there's 3 empties, because the 3 that are below this. Now, what we'll do is, again, you can place and activate any of these buildings, and you'll see that I've pretty much done that everywhere. Now, you'll also see that here's what I have left over. I didn't quite have one to be able to put here, so in this case, I will just turn this over because it's not going to score, and I have all these extra ones, which is not very good anyway. So let's go through and score some of these and show you how the scoring works. So if we're scoring the yellow residential buildings, these ones depend on the height. This one is 4 high, 10 points. This one's 1 high, 1 point. So I would get 11 points. Now the game comes with a scorecard. Essentially, you're going to go through top to bottom through all of the colors and score those. Now the next one are the parks, and you can actually see that for a park, if a park is adjacent to a yellow building, for every adjacent one that it is, it's going to get some certain points. Now this one is adjacent to 2, and this one is adjacent to 2. So essentially I would get 4 plus 4, or 8 points for parks. Now another interesting thing about parks is they get to hold a piece of energy. So at the end, when you have some leftover energy, you can just put it there because these are worth, any of these left over at the end are minus points. I'll get to that a little bit later. Now I only had 1 retail shop here. It's activated, but it doesn't really get many points because what you're trying to do is put a bunch of inhibitants on them, up to 4. If you put 4 people on there, you get 7, but I didn't really have any left over. Now for the factories, you're going to get points if they're adjacent to shops and harbors. 3 points for harbors, 2 points for shops. This one is adjacent to 2 shops, 2 points, 2 points. This one's adjacent to 2 shops, 2 points, 2 points. This one's adjacent to a harbor, 3 points. So that's 11 total points for my factories. Now the harbors, you're going to get points for continuous lines, rows or columns. So this one I have 2 in a contiguous line here. That's going to be worth 3 points. But if I had a row of 4, you could get 12 points. Now the last thing to score here that I haven't talked about are the public use buildings. Now this was one of the ones that I did not activate, so it was turned over. But if I had activated it, I have one of these in one district, that would have been 2 points. If you get one of those in all 4 different districts, that's 14 points. And the different districts are basically the different colors. You have the blue, the purple, the orange, and the pink. Essentially, it's the different districts here. I have 1, but I didn't score it. Now, I have extra. Any extra inhibitants that you don't use and any extra energy is -1. So I would have got -1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I was not efficient enough. And you would put those minus points on the scorecard, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. Now there is an advanced or expert game. All you do is flip over your player aid or your city, and you'll notice now there's 5 different districts. There's a new one here. You'll also notice there's not rows and columns of number. We have district numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 different districts, and then each little block also has a number. So if I want to put something here, I could either have used the 4 number or the 2 number. So if I used a 4, I could put them on any here. If I used a 1 to get something, I could put in any 4 of these or any place where there is a 1. So the placement's a little bit different. There's also some extra buildings we're going to go over in just a moment. Now the game is also 5 rounds now. Now let's say we're playing with 2 players. They take the 2 colors of the players and you actually flip these over so that they're on the gray and black side, and you add the number 5 for however many players there are. So at the end, there'll be 2 left over. So we have 2 players. There's 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s, and 2 5s because we're at 2 players. These are not anybody's. These get put over to the side. These are a common pool. So earlier in your turn, you could take the 1, and if it's still there later, you can take the second one, where normally you could never use the same number twice, but you're drafting through a pool of these. And the turn order is still the same. You're just drafting one of these, placing it, using the placing rules I just mentioned. Now let's talk about the different buildings. So each round had some tiles that were different from the normal ones, and they were called classic tiles. So this would be the normal type of tiles. There were also a few classics. These ones you would remove from the game, and you would use these ones that say expert for the same round number. These are all round 4 tiles, just to show you. So some of the expert tiles are these new buildings, which are basically, these are like huge office towers. And these score differently by however many adjacent and however many high they are. So this one here is adjacent to 1, and it's 1 high, so essentially he'd be worth nothing. This guy is 2 high, but it's adjacent to 2, so he's adjacent to 2, and he's 2 high, he's worth 3 points. But if you put them in a huge row where you have 5 of them adjacent and 2 high, each of the, that one would be 9 points. So you could get 2 adjacent, and if it was 4 high, you'd get 10 points. So you get really good by adjacency and building them high. They also help score the other things, like the factories. Now, if one of these is next to a factory, it's 4 points, which is even better than what the harbors used to be. With the parks, you can go next to parks, and now these things also count in addition to the normal yellow buildings that used to be there. Also, some of the other scorings open up because now that there's 5 rounds, you can place more things, you can place things higher, you can place things in longer rows, so it opens up the scoring a little bit for some of the normal buildings. The other types is monuments. Now, monuments score depending on what they're next to. Right now, I am next to 2 parks. Now, the monument loves to be next to parks. 5 points apiece if you put a monument next to parks. If you surround it with parks, it's going to be 4 of those, 20 points for a monument. For certain things, there are a lot of points. If you put a monument next to a factory or a harbor, it's minus 5 points. And for other things, it's neutral. So those are the different expert rules. You play again 5 rounds. You score the same sort of way. Obviously, you have to activate the buildings like normal, and that's the expert rules. There is Quadropolis. I had a chance to play this prototype of this at BGG-Con with the president of Days of Wonder, and it hit me enough that I really wanted to review this thing as soon as it came out. And as you know, Days of Wonder is one of my favorite publishers. They've come out with so many games that I absolutely adore and love. And as we've seen lately with 5 Tribes a couple years ago, they went to a heavier game. And this, again, as I think is maybe not as heavy as 5 Tribes, but it's maybe as thinky. So if you're watching this video and maybe all you've played is Ticket to Ride from Days of Wonder and you're looking for what other new titles they're coming out with, just be warned that this game is a deeper strategy game than, say, a Ticket to Ride would. I would not play this to introduce new people that don't play games to the hobby, because it definitely has more to go around with it. Lots more to think about. Now, with that being said, it's a very simple mechanically speaking game. I mean, you're putting a guy down and you're taking up that tile for whatever that number that is, and you're placing it on that number on your board, and you're building a city and you're scoring. Mechanically, the game is simple, but there's a ton to think about. There's so many different ways you can go. Do you go the industrial strategy? Do you go the residential strategy? Do you go the public office strategy? And the thing is, this game has some long-term strategies that you can explore, but a lot of it is going to be dictated by where the tiles are and what other people are doing. Even though you're building your own little thing and it might look like it's sort of multiplayer solitaire, it's really not, because there's a ton of interaction coming in from all the people. Now, if you're the type of person that likes to make a long-term plan for a long-term strategy and stick with it and get there and be able to go on your straight road, you're not going to like this, I don't think, because this game is very tactical. Yes, there's strategies. You can look at the board each round when it comes out, and you can devise the strategy of where you'd like to go. Chances are that strategy is going to get pushed off to the side because people are going to be taking the tiles you want, or they're going to be going in the row of the column you want, or that urbanist is going to be placed on one of those rows of columns that you want to go. More likely than not, you're going to have to change your plan and just get the best thing that you can get for right then. So you've got this plan for your city, and it's going to completely adapt. You're going to have to adapt on almost every turn. I like that. Some people don't like that. If you don't like that, this is a game you probably won't like. But if you like strategy long term, but then tactically figuring out how you're going to do it and being able to change on a dime and go to a different spot, then you really will like this game. It's very puzzly, trying to figure out, oh gosh, I've got these 3 turns left, there's stuff out there, I can put this there, and you kind of devise that strategy, but it's all going to be for naught a lot of times. This game can induct some analysis paralysis or AP because it changes every turn, and you might know what you want to do. The guy in front of you takes the tile you want or puts the urbanist there, and you can't go there, and you have to rethink what to do there. So there can be some downtime as you're thinking. I didn't find that a problem because I'm still thinking. The board changed for you. It changed for me too. Now I'm rethinking what I'm going to do, and I might have to rethink after you're done. But even with that being said, it's still a relatively fast game. For how deep I think the depth of this game is, it's really fast. I mean, it feels like it goes by really fast. When you first start the game, it feels really open. You're really not so sure what much to do, but the game ratchets up as the rounds go on. It gets better with every round because your city starts to build. You get a little bit more focus, and you're like, oh, okay, now I got to focus on this over here and this over here, and you really narrow it down. And I really like the arc of this game where the beginning doesn't feel nearly as fun as the end does as you're starting to focus on and figure out what you want, and then trying to be efficient with those resources. So overall, it's a game that I really did enjoy. If you like puzzly games, tactical games, this is one you're going to like. It's deeper than your Ticket to Ride, so be wary of that. And it's very tactical and things can change, be wary of that. If you pass all those tests, this is probably one that you're going to love. I liked it quite a bit. One I could definitely recommend, and that's Quadropolis. By the way, I love this export version the best. Flipping that over, having 5 districts, having 5 turns, making the game a little bit longer, even though I think theoretically there's not any more flexibility as to where you can put them, I felt like it was more flexible. I liked getting the sort of the draft pool. So as opposed to just taking 1, 2, 3, and 4 and knowing what you have each round, I like the idea of being able to draft. Maybe I want to use the number 1 twice this round, and I'll go get them right away. And I like the drafting pool better. I felt like it gave me a little bit more flexibility. Even though there was more things to think about, I really did like the expert version better, and I would probably always play with that version. But when I'm playing for the first time, maybe I'll just play the regular version with most people. But either way, it's fine. Great game, Quadropolis.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.